Let's take a look at some quadratic equations, and we're going to be using the method of taking the square root to solve those quadratic equations. So we're going to see equations in different forms here, and our goal is to leave your x alone by taking the square root. So let's take a look at these examples here. So the example is asking us to solve a quadratic equation. In other words, it's asking us to find the roots of those equations. We've learned before how to find the roots by factoring, but it turns out there's different forms or different methods. One of those methods was factoring. The method that we're going to learn today is taking the square root. So it's taking that radical of both sides to leave your x alone. So first, we're going to start off by leaving our x squared alone. So I'm going to cancel the minus 27 by adding 27 to both sides. So on the right side now we have plus 27. Your x squared is still not by itself, so we're going to divide by 3 to both sides. That cancels the 3 on the left. And then we're going to have simply x squared, which is what we want. And we solve the right side, so we're going to get 9 by dividing 27 by 3. So since we want our answer to be x, we're going to cancel the exponent of 2 by taking the square root of both sides. What does it do? It cancels the exponent. So now I have x on the left side, and the square root of 9 is 3. Why is it 3? Because 3 times 3 is 9. So our answer here is x equals plus or minus 3. And I always want you to include the plus or minus in front of a number when you take the radical of it. A different way you can write it is as x equals 3 and x equals negative 3. So you can do it in either format there. So you get to choose whatever you feel more comfortable with. The second equation, again, we're going to leave x squared alone. So we're going to add 10 to both sides. We get x squared on the left side. Your negative 10 with the positive 10 cancels on both sides. So on the right side, we're going to get 0. Cancel the x squared. How do we do that? We're going to take the square root of both sides. And like I told you guys, we are going to have a plus or minus here. So let me erase the equal sign so I can have space to write the plus and minus. Anytime you take the square root of a number, include that plus or minus before you take the square root. So we get x on the left side, which is what we want. And the square root of 0 is going to be just 0. I don't include the plus or minus because there's no such thing as having a negative 0. It's just flat 0 there. This equation here is going to require 2 steps. The first one is canceling the plus 11 by subtracting 11 to both sides and bringing down what we have left on the left, which is the negative 5x squared. On the right side, 16 minus 11 is 5. To cancel the negative 5, we're going to divide it by negative 5 to both sides. So now we have x squared equals negative 1. Now here, normally we would take the square root of a number to cancel that exponent. But since we can't take the square root of a negative number, the answer to this problem would be no real solutions. And the reason why we can't take an exponent of a negative number, the reason why we can't take the square root of a negative number is because we won't get a real solution. And since we're only dealing with real numbers, our answer is just no real solution. So these 3 examples gave us 3 different variation of answers that we can have. We can have 2 answers like you saw in the first example, so we have 2 solutions there. We can have only 1 answer like you saw in the second example, or you can have no real answers like you saw there. So let's take a look at another form or another type of equation. So on this one, you notice that we have parentheses square. Since your x is inside the parentheses and it has an exponent, we need to cancel that exponent first before I can leave the x alone. So take the square root of both sides. And that's going to give us x minus 1. I can lose the parentheses because it already cancels the exponent. The square root of 25, it's 5. X is still not by itself, as you can see there. So we're gonna have to add the 1 to both sides. So now we get 1 plus or minus 5 And I didn't combine the 1 and the plus or minus 5 because the 5 had a plus or minus there. So let me set up my two equations here, one for positive 5, so I'm going to have 1 plus 5. And the second equation is going to have the negative answer, so x equals 1 minus 5. So let's solve each of those equations. We get 6 here, so that's one of the answers. And on the second one, we're going to get negative 4. So my two solutions here, my two roots are going to be x equals 6 and x equals negative 4. And the third example goes over just a different type of equation. If you get a decimal when you take the square root of a number, just round to the nearest hundreds. So I hope this video helped you understand a little bit more how to solve quadratic equations by taking the square root of both sides.